We'll talk about a pleasure right now. I get to visit with Jonathan Vilma, huge part of the New Orleans Saints run to glory in 2009, winning the Super Bowl. He was enshrined into the Saints Hall of Fame in 2017. Jonathan, great to be with you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Jack. How you doing?
I'm good, man. We'll talk about FanDuel and what you got going on with them in a little bit. But first, the Super Bowl is set. Cincinnati versus the Rams. I've had the privilege of covering a lot of great players at LSU, but certainly I think Joe Burrow is the biggest star I've ever seen in the history of that program there. Just your thoughts on him. Only in his second year, coming off a major knee injury, and he's got the Bengals in the Super Bowl for the first time since the late 80s.
You know, my first thing that I look at is his poise and his demeanor, right? The body language tells me a lot about a quarterback, especially when I played. That's what I look for, body language in offensive linemen, wide receivers, quarterbacks, etc. And his body language tells me that he's always in complete control, right? He can get sacked. He could throw an interception. Doesn't matter. He's going to come back in complete control, and he's going to make plays. And I noticed that in his demeanor when he had his big LSU run, where the big games, the quote unquote big games, I mean, he was like this, man. It didn't faze him at all, and then he performed. It helped that he had a Jamar Chase, Terrence Marshall. He had some talent around him, but I really love that he's taken that same approach. Complete control of the offense. Every time I talked with his head coach, Zach Taylor, he said that this guy is, light years ahead of what a second-year player should be. Full control, understands the defenses, understands the offense. So when you have a guy playing at such a high level at such a young age and can do it so calmly, it's frankly Tom Brady-esque, right? When you remember Tom Brady in his early years, that's how he played. That's how he looked. That was his body language.
Awesome. Yeah, Jamar Chase, of course, one of his top targets at LSU now with the Bengals as well. The Rams making it. Quick question, trivia for Jonathan Vilma. What was the first start of Matthew Stafford's NFL career? Do you remember?
I actually do remember. It was 2009 against the New Orleans Saints. And I remember because I got a sack on him in the game, and I thought I was on my way to like a 16 sack career season. Obviously didn't happen, but yeah, I do remember. Yeah, we got after him pretty good. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, September the 13th, 2009, Saints 45, Lions 27. Stafford goes 16 of 37, 205 yards, 3 interceptions against the Saints. But, all those years in Detroit, I think everyone knew he was a good to great player. He just needed to be on a good to great team. And now we see he's going to get his shot with Odell Beckham. Obviously, we covered him with LSU. There's been a lot with Odell when you take him in, but right now he's got a shot to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, with Odell, I love that he's been a competitor, and he always said he wanted to win. It was all about winning. And if you look back at some of the outbursts that he had when he was with the Giants, it was when they were struggling, and that's the truth. Right? He would go off and get mad, etc. And I remember looking and saying, okay, at first I thought this is an immature guy. Then when I started to look at when he was having his outbursts, I said, this is just a very passionate player that really wants to win. And then he would always say that. He goes over to Cleveland. You didn't hear a peep from him in Cleveland. It was all, frankly, anything that got drummed up in the media was, frankly, media fabricated, right? Or manufactured. I shouldn't say fabricated, definitely manufactured. And then now he's on a team that's winning. He's playing well. You don't hear a peep from him. And I say, I look back and say, well, we as a media, we should really take a hard look at when we're quick to judge a player and try to label him as, a problem player or something like that, when really it was about him wanting to be on this stage, in this scenario, with a good quarterback, with a good team. I mean, it doesn't get any better for that. So I'm so happy for OBJ and what he's doing.
Very well said. Andrew Whitworth, 40-year-old offensive lineman. You ever run into Andrew Whitworth in your NFL career?
So I did. Oh man, you're dating me now, dating him too. I did. We didn't have any like crazy run-ins. when he was with the Bengals, we faced him a couple times. We beat them. He had Carson Palmer as his quarterback. He had some good teams, but clearly none as good as the team he's on right now.
Awesome. All right, Sean Payton. Jonathan, I don't think he's done. I just can't imagine him not getting back into coaching. But what is but I looked it up. It's hard to believe that he's older than Jimmy Johnson and Bill Cowher were when they got out of coaching and they never got back in. So sometimes guys get out and they don't get back in. What is your reaction to him stepping away from the Saints?
Yeah, I wasn't too surprised, to be honest. You look at the grind of a season, and I know how hard he works. I know how late he stays up, how early he comes in, and you're doing that for 5 months straight. It's worth it when you're making your way to the playoffs and you're in the tournament, right? We'd always say get into the tournament, and you have a couple good games, a bad game, whatever it is, but it's worth it, right? You're 13-3, 12-4. You go on these nice runs. It's hard to then turn around, have 4 different quarterbacks start for you, have God knows how many injuries across the offensive line, your best wide receiver out for the season, somehow manage to be in the playoff hunt for the last game of the season, have your heart ripped from you when San Francisco goes on a tear in the second half to beat the Rams. That is tough. Right. Then it makes you sit back and wonder, is it all worth it? Is the grind of being up till 3 a.m, back in the office 7 a.m, is it worth it? And especially, as you just said, at his age. Right. So I can see where it weared on him throughout the season. And you take some time to reflect and say, do I want to go through that again? And that's what happened.
Yeah. And you got to wonder the playoff losses they've had in recent years, where sometimes if I'm him, I got to feel like this is out of my control as far as coaching goes.
Yes.
A play the infamous no call against the Rams, and I know that's not how they coach the defensive backs to coach that final game play against the Vikings, the Minnesota Miracle, and all that. So that's got to be got to drive you nuts. But let's go down memory lane with you. 2009, Jonathan Vilma. I don't think I've ever been more nervous during a game than the NFC Championship game in the Superdome in 2009, even more than the Super Bowl, because here's this packed Superdome, been waiting over 40 years to make it to the promised land. You got the game in your building. I remember Kenny Chesney and Jimmy Buffett were sitting in front of me in the press box. But anyway, Garrett Hartley kicks you to the Super Bowl. What do you remember about the NFC Championship that night?
So what I remember, a few things. The crowd was deafening, literally deafening. I remember, frankly, being worn out by the second quarter because I had to scream so much to get the play call to my teammates, and I had to get the checks to my teammates. So I remember sitting on the sideline, and boy, I love the fans, don't get me wrong, but I remember sitting on the sidelines in the second quarter, and I was like, whew. And then Joe Burrow, my linebacker coach, he comes to me, he's like, hey, you all right? And I was like, yeah, coach, I'm good, but man, I'm beat right now. I'm kind of worn out over here. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, like literally every play. And I never forget, I had to, just get some Gatorade, kind of chill. Thank God our offense went on a nice drive, and I was able to take a breather. So I remember that game was the most physically spent and mentally spent I was for any other game I'd ever played in. I was completely worn out by the end of that game. I also remember that there was never a time on the sideline that we were nervous or that we thought we were going to lose. Like it just never popped into our head. Like we were going to win the game. Like that's just what it was. And, I remember Roman Harper saying, look, we have been through this how many times before in the regular season where we would go down 10 points, 7 points, whatever, and then we just find a way to win. That was just who we were. That was our DNA. So, that game was probably the most exciting game, yet the most physically, emotionally, mentally draining game I have been a part of in my career.
Wow. I want to give Greg Williams, your defensive coordinator, credit, because I remember going to training camp, and if Drew or whoever threw a ball and hit the ground, you guys were trained to scoop it up and sprint in the other direction. Didn't mean it incomplete, whatever. Ball's on the ground, pick it up, and it just really kind of cemented in your brain, this whole turnover thing. And Tracy Porter, God bless him, Johnny on the spot against Brett Favre late, Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl late to win. The turnovers, I think you forced almost 40 turnovers that year. That was the key to that defense: turnovers, pick sixes, and so forth.
1,000%. We started the offseason. I'll never forget our first offseason meeting with Sean Payton and Greg Williams. We literally had a full meeting on just turnovers and how it correlates to wins, how it correlates to opportunities, how many teams that made the playoffs, won the Super Bowl, their turnover margin. We ended it with the New England Patriots over their God knows how many year career, 12-year span, where they were the best in creating turnovers, the best at protecting the football. Like their margin was plus 120 over like this 15-year period. And the next closest was like 60 below them, right? And so we really took that to heart, and that's why we practiced that way. And we just saw the success we had if we got takeaways, get the ball back to Drew Brees, get the ball back to our offense. If we can do that, we knew we had a chance in every game. And sure enough, in that NFC Championship game, that was the difference. I think we forced 5 turnovers that game. I believe they only forced 1 or 2 on us, and that's how we won.
Awesome. All right, couple quick questions before we talk about FanDuel. Jonathan Vilma, better team, 2009 Saints, 2011 Saints.
Ooh, 2011 Saints, better team. We fans kind of look at that season like it was a good season. Internally, myself, my former teammates, we look at that as one that got away. We do not look at that as a good season. We look at that team and say we were too talented to lose to San Francisco. We shouldn't have lost that game. We did, but we shouldn't have lost. We really felt like we were on another run for a Super Bowl.
That was a rough week in Louisiana because LSU got shut out in the national championship game against Alabama in the Superdome, and a few days later, you guys lost at San Francisco. It was 2 dream seasons for both that ended in devastating heartache.
Yeah, Jock, you're bringing up some bad memories right now. I don't know if I want to end it on this note.
Okay. All right. How about this one? Who wins? 2001 Miami, 2019 LSU.
2001 Miami. 2001 Miami, we could run with any of their receivers. We played 2-man all day long, so that was our thing. We had as much talent. What I believe would be the difference is that we were able to be much more physical in the trenches, and we would be much more physical in our run game. So I look at Clinton Portis, Najee Davenport, Willis McGahee, Frank Gore, these were our running backs. So if we ever needed to just pound the football, we could do that. I don't think LSU would have been able to do that against us.
There you go. All right. We'll have a flag football game for charity one day or something. You guys decide it. All right. So FanDuel Group partnering with Boyd Gaming. Sports gambling is now legal in 55 parishes in Louisiana just in time for the Super Bowl and other great sporting events. Tell us about it.
It's very interesting. Once sports betting became legal, and I started getting pitched to be spokesperson, ambassador for some of the companies, I really wanted to know the first part of, all right, well, tell me, what is your social component? Are we just sitting here taking everyone's money, and if something happens to them, unfortunately, it's not our fault. Gambling's legal. So tell me more about you being responsible about gambling and what it really means. And so FanDuel's whole business model is not based on having one player come in and bet thousands upon thousands of dollars that they frankly don't have. It's really about betting $20, $40, where you can watch a game and say, oh, hey, I had a cool prop bet. Or, hey, I kind of think this team's going to win, so I put a couple dollars, right? Literally a couple dollars on that team. That is what their business model is. And then they even have a Play Safe website on their site that it helps anybody that may have issues and need to have additional support when it comes to having an addiction. So, that gave me comfort in talking about being an ambassador, a spokesperson for FanDuel, knowing that they are very, very, very mindful of the responsibility they have to promote responsible gambling. And so I like that. I really appreciate that. Sports betting is legal, it's taxed, it's regulated. Everything about what they're doing is clear and transparent. So when we look at two sides of it and say, well, some people just don't want gambling. Well, it's here. It's in the state of Louisiana. It's in 19 other states. Then it's like, well, I may not like gambling, but let's make sure we do it in a responsible way. Well, the most responsible way you can do it is to be regulated, to be taxed, to be governed. That's the most responsible way. And that's what FanDuel is doing, which is why I appreciate their business model and their approach to safe gambling.
Awesome. Yeah, I know LSU's athletic director, Scott Woodward, the second he was hired several years ago, he said, we need to embrace this. It's coming. We need to, make the tax money off it, and it'll benefit Louisiana. So, well said on your part. And it's casual, fun gambling, not the kind of bets we see in Sopranos and stuff where somebody's being held off the side of a building.
Yeah, no Johnny Side Street knocking on your door afterwards. Yeah, you're good.
Jonathan Vilma, thank you for your years with the Saints and also the Jets. Wow, 173 tackles, your second year with the Jets. Unbelievable stuff. So
yeah, it was good times. I had better times with the Saints, though.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Thanks so much for the chat this morning. It was great to visit with you.
Thanks, Jacques. Take care.